Welcome back to page 121. Today we're going to take a look at another faction, see the air quotes, of the rebellion. This isn't a faction of the rebellion so much as an external group that took advantage of the confusion caused by the rebellion. And I'm talking, of course, about the Aslan. But they are listed as a faction in this fine book, the Rebellion Source Book for Megatraveller. So I will call them a faction. So we're going to take a look at the Aslan, what they did and didn't do during the rebellion, and how they added to the chaos. Quick reminder, please subscribe. Trying to keep the channel growing. I just want to keep the channel growing. Also, please take a look at Patreon. If there's anything you can do to help out there, I would appreciate it. That's it. That's the end of the commercial. Today, a look at another faction of the rebellion, the Aslan. Out of the Rebellion Source Book for Megatraveller, we're going to take a look at another faction of the rebellion, the Aslan. Now, as I said, the Aslan were not actually a faction of the rebellion because they were not subjects of the Third Imperium. They were their own political entity. For the most part, the Aslan they're talking about here are the Aslan Hierate. There were, of course, many millions of Aslan that lived in the Third Imperium and were citizens of the Third Imperium and out of the Hierate, but this is talking about the Hierate itself. This is actually one of the longer entries in the factions category because it introduces us to who the Aslan are and what they do. So just a couple of high notes here. Flotterli, I've never been able to say that. Flotterli are the youngest of the star-faring major races. After thousands of years confined to their homeworld of Kusyu, located in the Dark Nebula sector, the race discovered jump drive and had the entire universe open to them. Territorial instincts of the race drove them to colonize world after world in rapid expansion. So we get a lot of background information for the first 2 pages of this that tell us about the Aslan themselves. Basically, they're bipeds who vaguely resemble kitty cats. Aslan, of course, being a word that means lion. And here they say they don't know where the word came from. It's just something some traveler tagged them with when they were first being discovered. They have 2 sexes, male and female. Males are bigger in size and have large manes. Females outnumber males 3-1. So it's a patriarchal society in that the males call the shots as far as, hey, we're going to go here and conquer this, but the females run everything. The Aslan are very interesting. I took a look at them a while ago in one of the old Traveller, the original Traveller supplements, that was about 2 years ago. But I'll be looking at them again soon in the Mongoose updates on the various alien races. The root of most Aslan action is a single motivation, the need for territory. Aslan society and Aslan psychology are based on, and the Aslan ambition centers on, the basic instinctual Aslan need for territory. This need, however, expresses itself in different ways. Males have the greatest, most direct territorial drive. Ownership and control of territory for the male is directly associated with the concept of self-worth, with mating instincts and position of family and clan. Females, however, contribute directly to the importance of the territory. Male ownership of the territory is likely to attract females. Aslan naturally occur in about 3-1 male to female ratio, 3 females to every 1 male. There's a surplus of females in the society. Males with more territory attract more females as wives and servants. And there are many examples of how the Aslan female is the one that actually runs things. The male conquers the land, puffs his chest out, struts around waiting to be offended so he can fight an honor duel. The female, on the other hand, is the brains of the operation. She goes ahead and she runs the business, finds ways to exploit the things that they as a clan or family have, and to better improve their status compared to other clans and families. It's a really interesting dynamic. And of course, then you get into the lower dynamic of the female hierarchy. You have greater wife, lesser wife, things like that, where some of the more successful wives have a greater place with the patriarch of the family or clan. And of course, family and clan is everything to the Aslan. They have no central government as such. They have the 29 clans. And the 29 clans are the ones that are the policy deciders. They are called the Tuluaku. It means 29 in the Aslan language. So I'm going to touch a little bit on the Aslan Hierate here, which is across the Great Rift from the Third Imperium. The Aslan interstellar civilization is the Aslan Hierate. There are no central Aslan government. The Aslan have no nations in the human sense. Aslan loyalties are channeled along family lines. Ultimately, every Aslan is a member of a clan. Aslan see their own loyalties in terms of their clan and its leaders, the Ko. Most worlds are inhabited by many different clans, often with their populations intermingling. Differences between clan members within a clan are handled by family structures. Differences between clan members in different clans are handled by negotiations and agreements between the clans themselves. Intermarrying is common. To take a clan, somebody maybe from a lesser clan and move them up in society, or maybe someone, a female in a struggling clan, has an opportunity to move up. So there's a lot of jockeying there. Sometimes males can be adopted into other clans depending on situations, although that's very, very twitchy. But the 29 strongest clans are the Tulaku, and that means the 29. The Tulaku meets continuously in the Aslan homeworld of Kushu to arbitrate disputes, settle matters of common interest, and otherwise deal with problems that must confront an interstellar society. Clans are independent. An agreement with one clan binds no other clan. A peace treaty with one clan does not assure peace with the other clans. And now the clans of the Aslan are sitting on the borders of the marches, the Spinward Marches. The border between the Imperium and the Aslan Hierate is actually a band of independent worlds and client states roughly 10 parsecs wide that separates Aslan and Imperials from direct contacts. Imperial traders venture beyond the border to sell novel goods, and Aslan traders venture to sell things that are considered exotic in the Imperium. For centuries, the Aslan had looked with envious eyes on the territory of the Imperium. The now ancient Peace of Hatar, signed in 380, committed the Aslan clans to respect the imperial territory and borders. That's one of the early wars that the Aslan fought. They fought a series of wars with the Imperium, and they lost, and that was the terms of the peace agreement. Many of the younger Aslan, the current Aslan, have chafed against this treaty, considering it to be ancient. Here it is 800 years later, and 700 years later, and we're still bound by this darn thing. Let's throw it out. There's plenty of territory to be had there. And one of the things that really drives the Aslan are the Ihate. In the Aslan society, the Aslan male, the oldest born male, automatically inherits. Any other males born to the family become second sons or Ihate. Ihate are landless males. Now, just because you're a male Aslan who does not inherit does not mean you necessarily leave the clan. If you are particularly important to the family structure, to your brother, who is now the head of the clan, you will, of course, stay on and help it out. But if you are one of the restless males who has to follow the imperative and gain his own land, you become an Ihate. And Ihate are valued in Aslan society because they constantly keep the society expanding, but they also help against overcrowding because they get up Ihate fleets, get aboard the ship, find new lands to live on, not necessarily conquer, and make their own way in the world. So that's the basics of the Aslan structure. And where this became a problem was the Aslan Erlocht, the new lords, have invaded in search of developed worlds to conquer. So the Erlocht, I'm not going to try a lot of these Aslan words. Centuries of Ihate settlement throughout the Aslan Hierate have clogged Aslan worlds with large number of settlers and colonists. Better worlds have experienced wave after wave of settlers. In the Trojan Reach sector, few worlds suitable for territorial expansion remain. Therefore, they want to move sectors far, far away. Some Ihate fleets stayed on their cargoes of Aslan settlers still in cold sleep, sending out scouts to look for new worlds. Over the past 20 years, a single Aslan leader has risen to power while administering the otherwise obscure post of a Coho Irleo Trace, fleet dispatcher. We'll be calling him the fleet dispatcher from now on. The accumulation of Ihate fleets in the sector produce confusion and competition. You don't want the Ihate fleets fighting each other when they could be going out and finding new worlds. So this guy, the fleet dispatcher, coordinates the Aslan Ihate fleets and says, okay, you go here, you go there. That gives him a tremendous amount of power. Well, this guy saw the confusion engendered in the Imperium by the rebellion and said, hey, wait a minute. Let's just go over there. The heck with this treaty. We don't know who's in charge over there anymore in the Third Imperium. Let's just go ahead and take these worlds. Now, they don't just come in and conquer the world. There are a couple of different ways the Aslan come in. I'm going to jump a little ahead on that, and it's going to be invading an uninhabited world. The easiest Aslan invasion takes place on uninhabited worlds. They can go ahead and set up their colony at their leisure. Invading settled Aslan worlds. Some Ihate fleets select worlds already settled by other Aslan. Although they must be content with territory that's not already claimed, there are benefits. People already exist for markets for the new settlers' enterprises. Because trade is important to female Aslan as territory to males, many fleets migrate to settled worlds. Invading settled alien worlds. The stereotype of alien invasion assumes violence and warfare. The truth of Aslan invasion is quite different. Aslan are not interested in short-term loot and plunder. They do want long-term territory and markets. They need to ensure that it will be able to stay in their colony and thrive once it's established. Wherever possible, Aslan will buy the land they settle. A small population in the world will often sell its rights to unclaimed, unexploited land for very little. Land can be bought with money or with royalties for a fixed time against the profit which comes from the exploitation. So basically, they're not coming in necessarily as these bloody clawed intruders to destroy the existing people on the planet. Most times they'll just move in on a continent that's not being used for much of anything, or part of a continent that's not being used, and say, hey, we're here, and look, we sell stuff, and look, we want to buy stuff, we want to open market and trade. Now I'm going to go back to Norris's response. Archduke Norris, in the Spinward Marches, had to deal with most of the Aslan fleets, and when the Aslan Ihate began entering imperial territory and landing colonization parties on imperial worlds, imperial fleets responded in force. They forced off some Ihate fleets, which fled to other systems, but imperial force was simply not sufficient to stop the onslaught. The imperial navy, even as it struggled to contain the invading Aslan, notified its higher headquarters of the problems. Eventually, the matter fell to Archduke Norris to settle. Norris was caught in the horns of a dilemma. His borders were hard-pressed by Vargir raiders, that would be to Corward, the threat of the Zodani, ever-present, and even the sword worlds required fleets to keep in line. Simple military action was not necessarily a viable response. Norris turned the problem over to his chief of staff, Imperial Fleet Admiral Trenethieff, dispatching him to the Aslan front with instructions to eliminate any threat to the domain. He began a 3-point program of containment of the Aslan invasion to a band within 5 parsecs of the border, direct negotiation with the fleet dispatcher to minimize their impact on imperial worlds, a buildup of forces with which to expel the Aslan. By 1119, the plan was only just beginning. So it's really interesting. The Aslan saw an opportunity to jump into imperial territory to get around the treaty, which they considered no longer viable since the entity with which the treaty was signed, the Third Imperium, was crumbling. They said, the heck with it. It's a kind of a gray area of the law there, but they went ahead and they exploited it. And it made for some interesting stuff. I ran some stuff down around the Soleimani Rim, and I had Aslan dealing with it. And I ran behind the Claw during Megatraveller. But I didn't deal much with Aslan because behind the Claw was more toward Rimward. There were Aslan, of course, but I didn't deal with a lot of this stuff that was disruption. The Aslan are very interesting. Unfortunately, they never really got shown what they were doing in Megatraveller. Megatraveller was such a broad stroke and so much stuff going on, so many different moving parts, that unfortunately in the 6 years or so of publication of Megatraveller from 87 to 93, we really didn't see a lot done with individual groups like the Aslan. It was more just a mention here and there of, the Aslan Raiders are doing this, or Aslan Ihate Fleet is doing this, which was disappointing. I wish we had gotten a little bit more in-depth on a lot of these factions, not just the Aslan. But that's all I've got to say today on this rebellion faction. The next one up is, I believe, another group, the Vargir. Again, another external group that's not really part of the rebellion, so really not a faction, more of a factor. We've only got a few of these left. Soleimani and the Zodani are coming up. So there you have it. That's it for today on the Rebellion Sourcebook faction of the Rebellion. And let me know what you thought. Let me know if you want to see some more in-depth stuff on some of these factions, or anything else you want to take a look at out of Megatraveller. That's all I've got to say today on page 121. Thank you for your time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.